Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome back. Today, I have a very special treat for you all, and I'm super excited to do this interview, this conversation. Today, I have my friend and my colleague, Alison Hughes, with me, and we're going to be talking about yoga, among other things. And so stay tuned and listen in for this really interesting, really inspiring story in this conversation with my good friend Alison, who's actually in the UK. So, we're just in international, we're international friends.
Yay! All the way from Scotland.
From Scotland. And so Alison is the founder of Qigong Yoga Flow. She teaches yoga classes both online and live. And she really specializes in supporting people who have chronic pain and fibromyalgia. And she has also a really great YouTube channel that you should totally check out, with lots of yoga flow videos and tutorials and things like that. So we will leave a link to her YouTube channel in the description for you to check out. But Alison, I just want to, give you a chance to tell us a little bit more about you and like what your journey has involved. And so I know that your story, your journey really started, you didn't just start teaching yoga classes out of nowhere. You kind of had to experience chronic pain in order to get to this point. So what was your experience with chronic pain and how did it start and what was your journey like?
Yeah, so 22 years ago, so a long time ago, I had horrendous bladder pain and I was all around the houses with the conventional medicine, and eventually I was diagnosed with a condition called interstitial cystitis. And the consultant said to me the worst possible thing. He said, "There is no cure. You will have this for the rest of your life. And we can try a few things, conventional medicines, but he didn't even give me any confidence that they would work, which of course, as we know, they were never going to work if he didn't give me the confidence that they would work. Anyway, so for the first maybe 5 years, I went along with the medications, the bladder installations, all the rest of it. And I was severely depressed because, I was 30 years old. I felt like my life was over. I felt like I cannot live like this. I was in a really bad state, crying a lot. And I think the stress of all of this was what brought on the fibromyalgia symptoms. So when it got to the stage where the one consultant said to me, "I think we should remove your bladder," I went home. Yeah, exactly. I went home and luckily, very luckily, I read all about it, because honestly, if it would take the pain away to remove the bladder, I would have done it. But I, thank God, read all about it and read that you can remove the bladder. And now I understand from learning through Elisa all about the nervous system. You are highly likely to still have the bladder pain, even though the bladder's not there. So thank God I worked that out and I decided I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to any more consultants. I'm not doing any more conventional medicine. And luckily, I found my way into a yoga class. I had no idea what yoga was at all. But I was very lucky because it was a gentle class. Now, I know that yoga can be so many different styles of yoga, and it can be very strenuous, it can be very fast, it can be very advanced. And these types of classes can sometimes put people off because it's the wrong class for that individual person. So I was just lucky that I went to the right class for me, knowing nothing about yoga. And it made me feel, it just helped me to relax. It made me feel nurtured and it made me feel warm inside and it gave me hope.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ask you a quick question about
yeah,
your journey before you kind of got into yoga. What would you say was probably one of the biggest things that was holding you back from getting the care that you needed? Like, what was missing? And because like it seemed like the doctors and the medical system wasn't able to provide what you needed. Maybe you didn't know
yeah,
what you needed, but what do you think was holding you back from getting, or what did you need? What do you think you needed, and what was holding you
yeah,
back
I
from getting
needed
better?
an understanding of why my body was hurting so much, because I had no idea, why was my bladder hurting so much? And actually, in the beginning, I did have some urinary tract infection in the very, very beginning, but I had antibiotic after antibiotic after antibiotic, and there was no infection anymore, but I still had the pain. And the first time the consultant looked in with the camera, he did say that my bladder was red and inflamed. Instead of being a pale pink, it was a bright red, and it was angry looking. So I understood from that yes, if my bladder was angry looking, then it would hurt. So I understood from that. But a few years later, after lots of conventional treatments, and the consultant had another look into the bladder, another very well, under general anesthetic that made me sick and all the rest of it. Anyway, this time he looked in and he said, well, your bladder is the color it should be. It's it's the pale pink color. There's nothing, there's no like ulcers, there's nothing that looks nasty in there to see. So there was not a physical reason why I should be hurting, and yet the pain was worse than it had ever been. So I needed someone then to explain to me, number one, why was I hurting so much, and number two, what could I do about it? And oh my God, if I had a doctor back then that could have told me that, it would have saved me years and years of severe, severe depression and a really low quality of life that affected my whole family because of the I was just sad, I was just crying, I was exhausted, and I was trying to work as well. I was trying to push myself through going to work. I worked in retail management and fashion, so I was standing all day and on my feet all day with this horrendous, it was like being in hell, I'm not gonna lie. It was just so much torture. And then I would go home at night and just cry. I couldn't sleep, the pain was so bad, and get up in the morning and do it all again. That was my life.
I'm glad you brought up that not knowing why it hurts so bad, because I think this is a common struggle with folks. And even if you have something to point to or a diagnosis to kind of hang off of and say, well, it's maybe you have arthritis or maybe you have this degenerative problem or whatever, it still becomes hard because the doctors will say, like, this diagnosis doesn't explain all of your pain. It can maybe explain part of it, but maybe it doesn't explain the entire picture. And so having something to say, like, this is why I'm in pain, and it's not all in my head, because it like the only other answer must be, well, it must be my mental state. It must be
exactly
thing that's all in my head. And that's where what it implies when you don't have that answer, which is so frustrating. And that adds to the depression and the anxiety.
Exactly. And then, I mean, I literally closed myself off from social life, from friends, because anytime anything was planned, I was too anxious that I was going to be in too much pain and I couldn't go. And so I just stopped arranging all these things. And I just felt like, how could my friends possibly understand? Because I look fine, I look absolutely fine. How could they understand what's happening inside of me? So I just shut myself off from
yeah, exactly. You can't
life.
like, even if they ask how you're doing, you can't explain it because there's nothing to say like there's anything wrong, and they wouldn't. And not only that, bladder symptoms are uncomfortable and embarrassing, and it's not something that
Yeah.
people want to talk
And
about,
you
going
know,
to the bathroom stuff.
I even used to say to my family, please stop asking me how I am, because I didn't even want them to ask me how I am because the answer was so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated if there was an occasion that I absolutely had to go to, like a wedding, for example. I had to be there, and I would be so stressed because I couldn't exactly go halfway through a service to the toilet,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just
yeah.
normal stuff.
It's so hard. It's so hard to like figure out. Well, and then so the medical system wasn't really giving you answers or giving you any explanations or treatments that were within what you were willing to try. Thank God you didn't do the bladder surgery. Honestly, that sounds
Exactly.
like a nightmare.
Oh my
And I could
God.
talk more about why you don't want to remove the body part because it won't fix the pain.
Exactly. And I'm so glad I worked that out, because that was one thing that I did manage to work out.
No, thank God. And so you end up having to sort of take matters into your own hands and start exploring different options. And so you happen to do a yoga class, and that was sort of your like gateway into this whole yoga journey. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about, maybe what were your thoughts actually before you started doing a yoga? Did you have any thoughts about yoga before you started getting into it? Like,
I knew absolutely nothing about yoga, nothing. So what I did was I joined a health club, and I think I tried most of the classes in the health club, and most of them, I mean, I did enjoy the step class, but if you can imagine having severe bladder pain and you're doing a step class, it's not really good. So the one that I really just felt so peaceful in was the yoga class, and there was a yoga class 3 times a week, and I had a lovely teacher, and so I started to go to her class 3 times a week, and I'd been literally going there for a few weeks, and I have no idea to this day what made me say to the teacher, do you think I could train to be a yoga teacher? And to my surprise, she said, yes, absolutely. And, that's why I'm here. But I was the quietest, shyest little mouse. So it's funny. I guess things happen that are supposed to happen sometimes.
yeah, I agree. I totally
Yeah,
agree. You didn't even plan it. You didn't have that thought in your mind ahead of time. It just like popped in there for a reason, and you asked the
exactly.
question, and
Yeah.
that flash forward, now you're teaching yoga classes and helping other people with chronic pain. And so tell us a little bit more actually then about what you do now and how you help people, and what's your mission, what's your purpose, and what do you do?
Sure. So I started to teach classes in 2008, and then I continued my journey and also trained to be a holistic therapist as well. And then I continued my journey and trained to be a Qigong teacher, which is basically like the Chinese version of yoga, and it's very gentle and soft and flowing, and a lot of moving with the breath, and just really gentle movement. So I then put all of that together into my own little healing practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I then decided, you know what, I mean, all along I was teaching local classes, and I moved to a beautiful little village in Ayrshire in Scotland, and I started to teach in the community hall there. So before lockdown, all my classes were local, and just really nice, lovely little community, mostly retired ladies. We have a few men and a few younger people as well. And it just is a really lovely sort of family feel to the classes. And I absolutely love it. Anyway, then lockdown happened. And of course, I had to stop. Immediately, I taught one class on Monday morning. And by that afternoon, I was told, oh, you're not allowed to come back.
Mm-hmm.
And we all thought, well, that will be for a few weeks. And someone said to me, well, you could teach online. And I thought, well, that's well out my comfort zone. I don't really want to do that. And here, a couple of days later, I thought, well, why not? So I set myself up in Zoom and started to teach online. And then a little bit into teaching online, I really started to feel more and more passionately that I really want to help other people with similar conditions to me and who are just not getting the help through conventional medicine. And, I know how much these practices help me, and I want other people to know. I joined a few support groups on Facebook and they made me so sad. I joined interstitial cystitis and fibromyalgia support groups, and they made me so sad because the comments on there are me 20 years ago. Nothing's changed in conventional medicine. Nothing's changed. I can't believe it. So, I just want these people to know there is another option. So I then thought, okay, if I'm going to specialize in teaching people with chronic pain, I want to be a bit more qualified in this. So I did a course called Pain Care Aware. And this is all about learning a little bit about the neuroscience and relating that to the yoga practice. And it was a fabulous course. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I learned so much. And that gave me enough knowledge to help me, because as well as help others, it helped me to understand, okay, I'm starting to get it. This is why I now have all these different parts of me that hurt, like the shoulders, one day the shoulders, and another day the hip, and another day, it's like pain that spreads all around the body. And so now I get it. Mm-hmm. And so that was a really good start. And then I, on Instagram, found Alisa here and attended, I think it was a free workshop that you were doing. And I thought, this lady didn't give up on us. This lady, was trained in conventional physiotherapy, finding for people with chronic pain it didn't work. She didn't give up on us, and that meant a lot to me. So I decided to do the 16-week course, and I just have found it so amazing that it has given me a much more understanding of the brain, of words like smudging and neurotags that I'd never heard of before. And this now makes such sense, because this I can relate to my practice, and this, because I understand now when I'm doing my practice, okay, this is what's happening to the brain, this is the connection, and that makes it more powerful. And especially I have a few different styles of practice that I do, but gentle somatic yoga is very much about the retraining the brain to muscle connection. And now I have this understanding. It's like, yes, this is all coming together now, and I get it. I just, so. And then I think I was a couple of weeks into the 16-week course, and I have to go back. Was it week 1 where I did the goals? I wrote my goals.
Week 1 or yeah.
Yes. So I wrote down my goals, and my goal was I want to spread how to help with conditions like fibromyalgia worldwide. That was in my goals. And then maybe the next week, I had just, on the off chance, said to Alisa, how do you fancy collaborating together? And now we're doing this. So.
I know we will talk more about what we're doing and how we're collaborating. But you mentioned so many good things that have kind of like led you along this journey, and it all actually kind of aligns back to looking for that answer for why do you hurt so much, and getting these little pieces that the healthcare system wasn't able to provide you with, And the yoga classes that you took, or the training that you did about pain care, was helpful for you kind of filling in some of those gaps. And then my program filled in some of those gaps even further, with just more detailed information and the sciencey stuff. And connected, even like justified it in a scientific way, like the practice that you were already doing, and just giving it more like, oh, this is like some solid stuff, like this is some solid science that I can put on and say, like, that's why we're doing this. So that's really cool. And also just gives you that extra bit of information that you can then now teach to your clients and other people who have chronic pain, and help them understand, like, why is this important, but also, like, why do you hurt so much? And also, it's not in your head, which is so important for people to know in that healing journey. Like you said, that was the thing that was missing for me in the very beginning. And so, yeah, so many good pieces of information. I think it's so interesting that it all started for you with this like thing that popped in your head, like, maybe I should ask about teaching yoga. And now here we are, setting a goal of, I want to help people with chronic pain around the world. And thank you, COVID, for making this happen, right? Because like, it never would have gone from local to international. And here we are having this international conversation about helping people with chronic pain. So really cool how that happens. And I do believe everything happens for a reason.
Me too.
Wherever you are spiritually, if you're listening and you're like, don't believe in God, or you believe in the universe, or just like chi or energy, like whatever it is, I think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and
It's
I strongly believe that my body has been giving me these challenges for a very, very good reason. That I truly believe that.
Yeah. And it's, I like understanding it from that perspective. That gives me, I don't know, like, to me, it's comforting to think that in a weird way. I know this sounds weird, but like, when people have chronic pain for a purpose, to learn something through their own struggle, through their own experience, to be able to help and empower other people, it gives meaning behind the suffering, which, I don't know, if it can make you feel mad. I think if there's a creator, or there's a God, or there's some kind of thing that says, like, you had to suffer in order to help people. But if that, I don't know, like, there's some comfort in knowing that there's redemption in that.
I would not be here if this didn't happen. I would not be here. I would still be working in retail management, and I would probably be really quite bored with life. So, and I love what I do. So I'm grateful.
Yeah. In some sense, it's giving you an enrichment in your purpose, instead of selling clothes and
exactly.
Which there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you do, right? But it's kind of deepened your purpose a little bit, which is really neat.
But the thing is, when I'm working with people, I feel I totally understand it, and I couldn't feel that if I hadn't been there. So
yeah, that's fair. I want to shift gears a little bit, and to people listening, I'm sure a lot of people listening or watching have tried yoga, or have thought about trying yoga, or may have some kind of preconceived ideas of what yoga is. And so I want to talk about, what are these misconceptions about yoga? What are the myths? And what are the truths about yoga? Because I don't know, I think I can think of, just like off the top of my head, a few barriers that I might have to doing yoga or starting a yoga practice. So what are the misconceptions, and what can you say about those?
Yeah, I mean, so many times I might meet people and I might say, come along to my yoga class. And the most common answer is, I am not flexible enough. And honestly, I promise you, you do not need to be flexible to do yoga. If you're practicing yoga in the way that it should be practiced, you are practicing yoga for you, not for the teacher, not for the other people in the class, not for anybody else, but for you. And so your practice could look like, I mean, as long as it's safe, it could look really like anything. It's not about how it looks like, or if you can touch your toes, or if you can stand on your head. It's absolutely nothing to do with that. And the first practice is like breathing practice. And I'm pretty sure everyone can breathe because we're here and we're breathing. So, you know, if you can breathe, you can do yoga. And there's just so, I mean, I honestly think that every single person in the world would benefit from doing yoga, whether it be, you know, just the most simple of movements with some breath work and a guided relaxation. And yeah, I would love everybody to know this.
I agree. I think, you know, and from speaking as the more, I don't know, the scientisty, like, I don't know, I value research-based and evidence-based practice, and there's so much research done that backs up the benefits of yoga, and what you just said, it will benefit everybody. But I think what's really important, I think a lot of people have that barrier to starting, the people specifically with chronic pain have this barrier to maybe starting a practice of yoga because A, I'm not flexible enough. B, I don't think I can sit on the floor. I can't get on and off the floor because of I'm weak, or I'm deconditioned, or I'm afraid I might fall. I'm afraid I might not be able to get off the floor.
Of course.
Maybe they say I can't put weight on my hands, so I can't do yoga, or I can't kneel. So I think that's a really important thing to bring up for people who have chronic pain, because it doesn't mean you can't do yoga if you can't do those things, right?
I mean, every single thing can be modified according to the individual needs. So that might be sitting on a chair, or it might be standing with one hand leaning against the wall, or the lying down part of the practice. If it's not possible to get down onto the floor, it can be done lying on top of a bed, as long as you're not going to sink right into the bed. But you know, most beds that are reasonably firm, you can do lying on the bed. So every single thing can be adapted. And of course, we know these good teachings, the power of visualization. So I'm now going to tell you a little story, and I think this is a wonderful story. And this is an absolutely true story. So I was in my teacher training course, and one of my teachers, who teaches people to be teachers, and she was an amazing woman. She had such severe back pain before I knew her. She was in a wheelchair. She'd had a few operations before she came to yoga. She'd had a few operations in her back. She had, as I say, severe back pain. She really couldn't walk, hardly anything, and she was in a wheelchair. So she began her yoga practice, and it was Drew Yoga was my first teacher training. And she visualized, we practiced what's called energy block release sequences. So she took herself through all these sequences in her mind. She couldn't do much movement, but she could do the breath work, and she could do any movement she could do from her wheelchair. But most of it she did in her mind, and she did it religiously every single day. She was very committed, and oh my goodness, you should see this lady. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And for me, that was on my teacher training course. That was 2005, and I always took that into my classes, and for my own self, because I've been to more advanced classes where the physical movements are absolutely not right for me, but I know that I can do the visualization, and I know the power, because that's a true story. So that in itself means everybody can do yoga.
Yeah. And so I might put you on the spot here, but in the chronic pain breakup method program, you've learned a little bit about how that works from a neuroscience standpoint. So
Yeah.
can you explain a little bit about why that works?
Oh my goodness. I really think I need to hand over to you for this part here.
I mean, I can say, when we practice imagery, when you practice the visualization, what is happening is your brain is practicing the movement in the same way as it would in real life. So if you do the movement or you visualize the movement, your brain is practicing the same exercise. So think about it this way, when you develop synapses or you develop what we commonly call muscle memory, really what is happening is the body is developing, or the nervous system is developing those connections and those synapses, and they're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And so in a sense, the brain is exercising doing that movement, and those synapses are becoming stronger. And at the same time, for her or for anybody who has chronic pain, they're practicing those movements without the pain at the same time. So there's this disconnection between the neurotag, right? We know that term now. There's a disconnect now between the neurotag for that movement and the neurotag for pain, or the neural signature for pain and movement. And so the brain is now disconnecting these two automatic pathways that were connected, and they're now disconnecting. And that will weaken those pathways and make them less automatic, so that now you're able to perform the movement better with less pain. And so that practice of doing that visualization, I don't know where she heard about it or how she learned about it, but it is completely evidence-based, and it's very, it's reprogramming your brain, and in a very real sense, which can make you physically stronger. I mean, professional athletes do that practice, makes you physically stronger. This has been studied and tested. Your strength will be better, your flexibility will be better, your coordination will be better by just doing a simple visualization practice. And so there's absolutely no reason not to be doing it. Even if you can move, right? Like even if you can do the yoga and you can sit on the floor and you can stretch and you can move your body just fine, you can still make that practice even better and enhance it by adding a visual or a mental component. Yeah. So I love that.
Exactly. And for the people that say to me, I'm not flexible enough to come to yoga class, well, you will absolutely become more flexible. And it's even more reason why you should come.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and to that being said, this is actually an interesting part about my story that I don't share very often, but when the pandemic started, I was still working in a physical therapy setting, and I helped our clinic shift into doing a telehealth practice. And so I became the director of telehealth for our clinic before I started this business. And I was working with a woman in her 80s, and we were doing modified yoga. She couldn't get on the floor yet. She was still struggling with her balance and couldn't get on and off the floor yet. We did an hour of some modified yoga routine with using a chair, and it wasn't all sitting. We would stand, she'd hold on to the chair, she would lean over the chair. So we did like the down dog on the chair, like holding on to the chair.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to, you have to have a good instructor who understands where you're at and what your limits are and how to modify and provide lots of creative alternatives and modifications and substitutions. And it's totally doable. And so I love that. I think that's really great. And I think what's even better, for anyone who's got chronic pain, is to actually work with an instructor who has a clue about chronic pain and what you might be dealing with, and now also specializes in working with people with chronic pain. You're going to be better off going to an instructor who has a clue what that is than
Yeah.
going to a class at the local gym. And, you know, who knows what they're going to be teaching in those classes
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
how to modify it.
Absolutely.
I think that's the range though, like, and it goes for anything, like whether you're working with a physical therapist or a physician or a yoga instructor, like every provider or therapist has a different skill
Yeah.
level and understanding and depth of
Yeah.
chronic pain. So there are good
Yeah.
ones and there are not so good ones.
Yeah, and you know what I would say with yoga is it's essential to find the right class for you, the right teacher for you. I mean that is absolutely essential, because for a safety point of view for people with chronic pain, absolutely, because you really need to listen to your own body,
Mhm.
because we don't want to push past that pain.
Yeah, I
Going
agree.
back to
Well,
the,
that's my motto, right? Push to it,
is it
not
push
through
to
it.
it, not through it? That's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Yes, push to it, not through it. Always, 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 if you have
Yeah.
chronic pain. Um, and yeah, and I think too, like if you, because the goal is ultimately to find something that you'll want to do consistently. So
Yeah.
it's not only needs to be safe for you, but also it has to jive with you. Like I've gone to a yoga class once. It was like when I was part of a climbing gym, like a rock climbing gym, they did a yoga class once a week and I thought I would check it out. But the instructor, almost the entire time we were doing these like chanting and like grunting and like really like a lot of vocalizations. And that was just not for me. For some
Yeah.
people, it's great. But I
Yeah.
was just like, I cannot do this. I came here to like get the sweat and the stretch and the toning and whatnot.
Yeah.
And we sat on
It
the
just
floor and
wasn't
like
the right
chanted the
fit for
whole time.
you.
Not my class.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's important for people to know that yoga is not just yoga. You know, it's not just yoga. I mean, there are so many styles of yoga. Same
Yeah.
with qigong. So many styles of qigong as well.
Mhm.
So please, you know, don't just try one and think this is not for me.
Yeah, I agree. If that was my first exposure to yoga, I would have been
You'd
like,
never go back.
nope. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. If that had happened to
exactly.
me, I would have never gone back, and then I wouldn't be here today. So
Yeah, yeah. So, and yeah, so it really, it has to be keep trying, keep finding the different things that you like, know what you're kind of looking for. If you know you don't want to chant and
yeah.
do that kind of thing, like, and you know what you're looking for and try to find an instructor who has that ability and work with Alison.
Yeah. And by the way, I do like chanting, but I keep it in the shower.
There you go. There you go.
And in the
It's
car.
definitely not for everybody. Yes, and there are benefits to that. I understand that
Yeah.
there are benefits to doing that. It's just one of those things where maybe in the group setting, maybe that was my problem. Like I'm like, nah, I'm not ready for this. I'm not
Yeah.
at this level. So very cool. Well, for time's sake, I had so many other things that I wanted to like talk to you about.
Yeah, we could talk all day.
I think so, but I have a really quick, well, hopefully it's a quick question, and that will kind of segue into talking a little bit about how we're collaborating. But what would you say, looking back at your journey, what were like the biggest key elements that you had to learn in terms of your pain journey? Like, what were the things that you had to learn looking back? And maybe there were things that you didn't think you needed to learn along the way. Look, like, you know, from the beginning you didn't identify what those key elements were, but now looking back, you can kind of say, okay, these were the things that I needed to really
Yeah, I mean,
learn.
my pain levels and my mental health started to improve when I started to change my lifestyle.
Mhm.
That was the biggest thing, really. I stopped um what's the word, relying on conventional medicine,
Mhm.
and I started looking for ways to help myself. I started looking for nurturing, holistic ways to help myself, and I did give up the fashion retail job because it was not nurturing to me. And so yeah, really big lifestyle changes and listening to my intuition, and then starting to do just a nice gentle movement practice each day, a breathing practice, getting myself out into nature every single day, doing a lot of mindful practices, not to just sit and meditate, but to do meditation as in walking meditation, even just mindful eating can be meditation. So things that were nurturing to my nervous system, to calming the mind from all the kind of very negative chitter chatter that was going on, and just really looking at the positive things that I could actually do to help myself and have a nice, a better quality of life. So that was really the start of seeing changes.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the biggest, the broadest thing that you said that's probably the most important is that you started to implement, you had to change your lifestyle. And it's like, it's the equivalent to like, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change. You had to make those changes and do it yourself, because it wasn't like the doctor was going to hand you a pill that you were going to take every day. It was like, you had to start doing something on your own. And I think like the pieces of that puzzle were a little bit different. Well, they might be different for you than from somebody else. But no matter what, it comes down to implementing these things on your own. There are things that you can do to improve upon your situation. It doesn't mean that you're going to cure your situation or make it go away, but you can improve the quality of your life by doing the right things. And sometimes people just need to experiment with different things and figuring out what those pieces are. And
it felt really, really empowering to do that, and even food, feeding myself the most nutritious food helped my mind as well, because I knew this is nourishing and nurturing and healing for my body. So anything that I could do to make myself feel good, I would do it. And that included saying no to people and not feeling guilty for it. And that's something I really had to learn, to not feel guilty for saying no to people, and to actually think, no, I need to do what's good for myself if I'm going to heal.
Yeah. Establishing boundaries. And all, like saying no when you can't do it and it's too much and it's just going to add to your plate and something that's not going to serve you. And so I love that. I think that is something that people are always going to struggle with, especially the people pleasers who are out there. It's going to be hard to set those boundaries and stick to them. But yeah, anything like when you can do something like even just change your diet or practice a simple breathing strategy, or go on a walk and just like think about things that you are appreciative of. Like like this is something so simple, but just saying like, I'm on a walk and I'm on a sidewalk. I appreciate the fact that there's a sidewalk in my neighborhood, because not everybody has that. And I love this sidewalk. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but it's that like sort of like in the moment being present. And so it's those little things that can make you feel like you have more control over your situation, versus saying like the external environment has all the control and my pain has all of the control over what I do and what I can feel. So I think that's a really important piece. And it also, like, that sense of control can also reduce that fight or flight response. And so which is super important.
Actually, that's what I was doing before I knew that's what I was doing.
Exactly. Now you have like the sciencey stuff behind it. You're like, this makes sense, like why I'm doing this. And so very cool. And so back to like some of those key elements, that's kind of where we decided to start when we collaborated together, and we decided we would do this mini course. I don't even know if it should be called a mini course because there's so much in it.
It's a big course. It's a big course.
Yeah. And so we're kind of going into like helping, I guess the idea, right, was like to kind of help people build a foundation of those sort of self-care practices of what you kind of need to have on board before you can really do anything else. Like you don't have to do yoga, but if you want to do yoga, you kind of have to have these other elements in place first. Like if you want to change your diet, you also have to have these other things in place first. These are like the essential pieces. And then the other pieces that you choose to do may fit for you, they may not fit for the other person, but these are the core elements that we wanted to teach in this course. And so I'll let you, what's the name of our course that we're teaching? When is it? And what are these 4 key elements?
So what are we called? Foundations of Self-Care for Chronic Pain.
Yep.
Because we wanted to give the foundations, like Alisa just said, and things that empower us to help ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
what are these 4 elements? Learning, why do we hurt? Setting ourselves goals and actions in line with these goals. And safe practice, and how to get a good quality sleep.
Yep.
So
awesome.
These are the 4.
So we took those ideas that we thought were like the core key elements. Like this is not a class on modifying your diet. This is not a class on how to become a master yogi. This is not a class, on, I don't know the right words, but like it's not going in depth in all of those different directions that you could take. We're giving you like the foundational stuff, no matter what direction you decide to take. So I'm going to be teaching a lot on like the neuroscience and giving you that deeper understanding of why you hurt and the science of some of this stuff. We're going to be talking about setting goals and sort of like, why it's important to set a goal, but also because the goal is going to dictate what you do, what steps you take and how do you get there. For example, if your goal is to be able to do the dishes and like, cause that's where you're at and that's where you're struggling with, but every day you're going to the gym, that you're not in alignment with your goal of doing the dishes by pushing yourself so hard every day by trying to get to the gym 5 days a week. So we want to align your actions with your goals. And then we want to teach you how to develop a safe movement practice. And that's kind of where I'm going to be teaching a little bit about pacing, but Alison's going to be doing a lot more practical demonstrations of different movements to start incorporating in a safe and effective way. So I'm super excited to go into that because that's the element of my program that I don't really incorporate as much. I sort of give the framework of how to move, but then I don't really do a whole lot of practical demonstrations. So that's one reason I wanted to bring or to collaborate with Alison, because she does so much more of that. So I'm excited about that. And then sleep. Sleep is so essential to retraining the nervous system and like to anyone. So if you don't have sleep on board, it's going to be hard to start feeling better. And so we have to start with sleep. Totally. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some sleep hygiene strategies. You're going to talk about like relaxation, practical.
Yeah, we're going to do a lovely restorative practice.
So excited about it.
Make you feel amazing. Absolutely.
Everyone's going to want to go to bed in the middle of the day after we're done. The timing isn't perfect for us in the US, but because it's going to be in the morning. But the good thing is that our classes are going to be recorded And so you can watch them later on. If you want to put it on right before you go to bed, that would be a great strategy to utilize. So do you want to tell everybody when the classes are?
So we're starting this Friday,
Yay.
which is the 7th, Friday the 7th of October. And in the UK, it's 3 p.m. in the UK, which is what, 9 a.m. with yourself?
9 a.m. in the US. Well, in Central Time. I'm in Central Time. So what was that? It would be 10 a.m. Pacific and 10 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. Pacific. Yeah. So bright and early.
Yeah.
And then so you can sign up. It's 3 days. So it's the first day is Friday the 7th. And then it's the next 2 Fridays. So Friday the 14th and Friday the 21st. You get all 3 days when you sign up. We'll have replays, we'll have recordings, we'll have lots of extra bonuses for you all. We'll have a Facebook group for you to ask questions and communicate and connect with your peers. And so, that's what we're collaborating on. We're super excited. And we'd love to invite you all to join. So I guess we'll just leave a link to sign up in the description. So be sure to sign up. And like Alison said, the first day to sign up, or the first day of the class, is this Friday, the 7th. So be sure to sign up by Thursday. Would be good to get in there. And we'd love to see you there. So,
but don't worry if you can't come on the Friday, it's not a problem.
Exactly. Yes, because we will record our sessions, so you'll have access to all of the recordings. So you can watch them. If you can't watch it on Friday, you can play back on Saturday, Sunday. You can even watch it every day of the week.
You can practice the movement class every day if you want to, and it will be really nurturing and it'll just make you feel nice. I promise.
Yeah. Ooh, I just thought of a really good idea. I'm going to talk to you after about what we can do. Okay, so I guess that's it. We'll wrap up. This was a little bit longer than I expected, but that's okay. I think we talked about lots of really good stuff. Do you have anything last that you want to say to anybody watching or listening?
Just, I am so passionate to share my practice with you, and I cannot wait. And it's just going to be so nice, and it will be nice, gentle breathing and movement and guided relaxation and nourishing and nurturing and sending you lots of love.
Yeah, so exciting. And the last thing I'll say too, because any people who have either been in my program or are interested in my program, this is like an excellent adjunctive thing. So like if you've done the program or you're thinking about doing the program, there's no reason not to sign up for this, because Alison has a whole lot more that she's bringing to the table that I don't teach in my program. So
to complement what you teach.
Exactly. It's all going to be in perfect alignment with our what I teach and what she teaches are going to be in really good alignment. And so we're very excited. It's going to be very beneficial. So, and if you're thinking about doing my program and you're like, oh, I can't afford it, this may be a really good sort of like an entryway to get your feet wet. And if you like it, and if you like me or you like Alison and you want to continue on, we'll have a great opportunity for you to continue working. But it's a great way to just at least get started, rather than being able to go into the full program with the full commitment. So anyways, thank you, Alison, for joining me today. I think this was a really good conversation. I look forward to working with you and everybody who wants to come along. Where can they reach you if they want to ask you a question or follow you or get connected and work with you?
Yes, so I am Qigong Yoga Flow. That's Qigong is how you spell Qigong. Qigong Yoga Flow, and you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, and I have a website, qigongyogaflow.com, and I have a YouTube channel, Qigong Yoga Flow with Alison. So,
Awesome. So I will definitely leave all of those links that you mentioned in the description so anybody can find them. And thanks again.
thank you.
Very excited to have everybody in our upcoming class. Bye, everybody.